Greetings everyone, ciao from Italy, this is Panthera Urban and welcome back to a new speed painting. This is a commission for Foxxprince on DeviantART, who asked for this adorable commission of these two characters, Devon and Dakota. Devon being the one standing up and Dakota being the one hugging him. So this is a really cute commission that I loved drawing, and basically I used very simple techniques for this one, and what I found most interesting doing was how to draw the fur and how to shade it. It was a very interesting experiment for me. So let's watch on, and I'll be commenting on some crucial parts later on in the video. After drawing and outlining the fur, I went back in with my trusty blue pencil, which I use for basically most shadows. And I went in and decided the light source would be on the upper left. So I drew shadows on the right side of these two kitties' bodies. And I paid a lot of attention to the flow of the fur and the way, you know, each hair will cast shadows and will create this very fluffy effect. I want these characters to be tangible, like to be fluffy. Another thing that I enjoyed of this commission was the fact that these two characters have markings which were obtained using Photoshop. So say you'll see that Dakota has a gradient on his front legs going from dark to light fur. So that was very interesting for me as a traditional artist to try and find a way to emulate these effects. So that was it was one of the most fun parts of this commission here. So I really hope you enjoy my my methods to obtain, say, gradients and other typically digital effects traditionally. So after putting down the shadow base, I went on and started coloring Dakota, who has this very dark grayish black color, which I really enjoyed obtaining. So I started with my gray pencil and I went back in with a darker gray, and I kind of added texture to his fur as I went. because the problem with the dark gray pencil is that it covered the blue that I just laid down, and I wasn't very able to see it very well, so I had to work piece by piece instead of just laying down an entire layer of gray and then going back in. So you can see me on his front paw. You can see me there sort of stopping halfway through coloring. That is because I told you he has this gradient on his front paws, and I'll be trying to make the other part of the paw a little lighter later on. Here you see me working on that gradient. I went back in on the tip of the paw with a lighter gray pencil, and I also covered other areas which had the same slightly gray color. I also worked on the highlights, as you can see here, so to give this sort of sheen to his fur and to increase the texture a little bit. So for that gradient, what I basically did, I added color to the section in the middle, the one that had the most variation, and then I covered it back with the initial gray color that I used for the fur in order to unify it. So the character also had spots, which I'm adding right now, and I moved on to the other parts of the drawing, which included me adding markings to his fur as well as highlights. So this is where I started adding spots and stripes on this character's fur, and I did so with my black pencil, which is actually very transparent and can draw on other layers of color and leave this sort of ghostly effect, which I really like, and I think works really well for his fur. So after finishing Dakota, it was time to move on to Devon. And this character proved a little bit more of a challenge than I expected, because his fur is white, and it's always a little bit challenging to color white fur, since the paper I work on is white most of the time. So what I did here was I laid down a layer of very light gray. You can barely see it, but the character right now is slightly darker than the paper, and then I went on and started working on the texture. I hardly ever leave the paper white when I actually draw white characters, because I feel like it looks a little bit empty in my opinion. So I went back in with a very light gray and I started adding light from that slightly darker gray. So after laying down the white base, I went back in with a darker gray pencil, which I used for the texture and for the darkest shadows. And once again, Devon has some gradients on his body, especially his front paws. And in this case as well, I sort of had to trick the system in order to obtain that effect. Let's see what I got from it. So here you see me working on the front paws, which had very intricate markings actually, and some of the markings were white and sort of faded into the white of the rest of the body. So it was a very interesting moment for me, because I had to really work around my limitation with traditional art. And you can see me here adding the stripes as a negative space when I colored the paw. And I went back in to give the stripes that I created texture. Those stripes, I did not draw them. They were simply there as a negative space when I colored with the brown there. The rest of Devon's markings were irregular, dark on pale sort of situation, so they were a lot easier to obtain. That's the finished picture. I really hope you enjoyed this one. It was a lot of fun to work on. And if you're interested, I left my link to the commission journal in the description if you ever want a commission like this one. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, have a good one. See ya!